Hi, my name is Andrew Berry and welcome to At the Bench's YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at how to resize a silver ring. We're going to be taking it down a couple of sizes. Now, this particular silver ring has a gemstone in it. And because silver is such a fantastic conductor of heat, we have to protect the stone that is within the ring. A couple of ways we can do that. We can take the stone out. That is an option, although we don't normally like to do that. And the other way is to protect the stone with a couple of commercially available products and also some homemade products as well. This particular ring here has a little blue sapphire, and while sapphires, yes, can take quite a bit of heat, silver conducts the heat so quickly, so we're going to protect this area where the stone is. As I said, there's a few products available. The one product that I really do like, and I'm not being paid to say this, this is a product called Thermo Gel. We love Thermo Gel. We find it is one of the best products out there. There are others such as Cool Heat as well, and I'm sure there's plenty of others. A lot of people would like to use perhaps some cotton wool or some paper towel soaked and put into a very shallow water bath. And whilst that is great and there's no problems with that at all and it's very cheap, I find that because the heat does travel down the silver, the water does sort of boil slightly and will even perhaps evaporate. Yes, you can fill that back up, but I find the Thermo Gel, the Cool Heat even, is so much easier. You don't have to worry about this drying out on a particular ring like this at all. The ring that we're looking at is a simple solitaire, and this can apply to a cluster. If you're having like a diamond ring, again, in theory, diamonds can withstand the heat, but it's always best to make sure. And if you've got stones such as pearls, coral, topaz, quartz stones, anything that you're unsure of, it is always wise to protect the area just in case, because it could be a very sentimental ring and you really don't want to mess up. So let me just quickly show you how we're going to quickly resize this ring. Here in the UK, we have sizes going from A to Z and Z plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And each size is equivalent to about 1.75 millimeters here in the UK. I think in the US, you obviously have a numbered system, and I'm sure, if I can remember right, that each size, so to go from 7 down to 6 or 6 up to 7, for instance, that's one size, and I'm sure that's 2.5 millimeters. So if you want to make a ring smaller, one size, if you're in the US, you take out a piece equivalent to 2.5 millimeters. If you want to put a piece in, two sizes in the US, you'd put 5 millimeters in. Here in the UK, it's 1.75 millimeters. So I'm going to take this ring down 2 sizes. Now, I don't really bother trying to measure. You can get special gauges. You can even use your dividers and put that down to the particular 1.75 or 2.5 millimeter if in the US. And you can come along and mark off the ring shank of those particular sizes. You can do, and if you're just starting off, that's a fantastic way of judging accurately. But as you do this more and more often, and I've been doing this now close to 30 years, you can come along with your saw and simply just mark off on the shank the correct number of sizes. It just comes from experience. So this particular ring, we will measure it first of all and just see what size it is. This ring is a size L. So we're going to take this down 2 sizes to a size J. 2 sizes down, it's 1.75 millimeters per size. We're going to grab our piercing saw. First of all, what you must make sure that there is no solder joint within the ring shank here, or if there is a solder joint, you need to find out where that is. What I tend to do, and again, I've been doing this for 30 odd years, and I know I've just said that silver conducts the heat really quickly. I would just simply light my torch, and I've simply got a butane torch here, is just gently warm up the back of the shank here. I'm holding onto the ring because I can just judge how hot that ring is getting. I don't want to have it so hot that it burns my fingers. I can just simply warm up the ring shank here. And when the ring shank starts to discolor, if there is a join in that shank, it will just show through as a very, very slight, lightly colored line going across the ring. If there is no join, great, no problem at all. If there is a join, I would always advise you cutting through that join and then taking a piece out from there. What you don't want to do is not to check if there is a join, cut and take a piece out or two pieces out, go to rejoin it and find out then that there is a join in the shank, and the shank then will have two joins in it, and that will just completely weaken the shank. So make sure that if there is a join in the shank, you cut through that joint, and if there isn't a join, you can cut anywhere, obviously avoiding any hole marks, maker's marks in the ring itself. So there is no join in this ring. It's quite a nice fine ring shank on here. So we're going to cut two pieces out, the equivalent of two sizes out, sorry. And using the edge of my thumb here, just running the blade along the edge of my thumb just to steady it, I can come along and just put a mark. So that's my starting point. I can come along 1.75 millimeters, and I can do this purely by eye. Just put a slight mark, move the ring along. So there we've got the equivalent of two sizes being taken out of the ring. Now we can simply cut through those marks, laying the ring down upon the peg. I find that is the best way of doing this. Moving it along to my second mark that I put in. And there is the piece taken out. That's fallen into my tray here. I would always have a little bit of a pot to put those little pieces in to save it. I'd have one for silver and one for gold as well. So this is the gap that I've got. Make sure that there is no swarf, there's no little bird that's just been kicked up that's going to stop this joint going back together nice and tight. And the reason why I cut it on my peg here is because the ring can stay nice and flat. If I was cutting by here and I'm cutting through, there's a chance that the ring could move like this and each cut will not be parallel with each other. So by putting it down on here, my cuts are going to be nice and parallel. Grab a pair of half round pliers. So one of these jaws is rounded, like a half round. The other jaw is nice and straight, and put the half round on the inside and simply just bend the ring around, being very careful now that you don't put any stress onto the area where the stone is. So I would perhaps just put the pliers to the one side of the stone we've got there and just gently push it round, and push this side round as well until the ends just come together. Now you want the ends just coming together so they're just kissing. They're just gently, gently touching and hugging. What you don't want to do is to force them together hard, because as soon as you put the heat on, if there's going to be too much stress, the metal is going to push up exactly like that. But if they come along and they're just gently touching, that is the best joint to have. Once you've cut through them, you don't want to touch the faces at all. And also come along then with a little bit of emery paper now, just to go on the outside, just to clean up the metal, and also on the inside. Because as always, when it comes to soldering, you really need very, very clean surfaces. They're not quite touching yet, so I'm not going to touch the ends. I'm just going to separate those two halves, bring them together, and just have it so they just gently touch. Make sure the ends come together completely snugly. You want to make sure that the sides here are nice and straight. You don't want them skew-if, they have to be nice and straight. Also make sure when you're looking in this direction that the top of this shank here matches the same curvature as this. You don't want one above the other. They have to be beautiful and perfect, because if they are one above the other and you start to file these down, you have to file this one here a bit and then this one down here a bit to get them to match. And that's when the ring shank becomes very, very thin. So make sure that the sides of the shank come together perfectly, and also the same curvature comes together gorgeous, and you've got a nice tight join on the ring as we've got there. Okay, this is where we need to then open our pot of Thermo Gel. And I would always tend to use the back of my tweezers for this. I would just push this down like this, take out a bit of a lump and put down on my block, on the edge of my block normally, because then I can turn my block around and work in this direction. And I'm not putting it flat bang in the center. Put a nice amount on there. Make sure there is no air bubbles within it. Grab the ring and simply push the ring into it and bring the cool heat around the ring itself, and just add a bit more if you want to. Gently push that down. Okay. The advantage we got by putting it into this particular cool heat or Thermo Gel is the fact that we can move it around and move it around into whichever position you want to. You don't have to rely upon a third hand to hold the ring in a particular position. Get some flux, put that upon the area that we're going to solder, and I would always try and use some hard solder for this. And what you need to do is just have as much solder as you need just to fill that gap where those two surfaces are touching. What you don't want to do is have so much solder that it floods all the way along the shank itself. At the end of the day, you've got to file buff that off, and that is one heck of a waste of solder. So I would always put on as much solder as you need and no more. So that's a very, very small little piece of solder there. And what I've done with my solder, I've actually rolled the end of it a lot thinner. So the piece may look quite large, but it's very, very thin. If you haven't got a roller mill, simply hammering it would do. Start off with the flame slightly far away, because what you want to do is just gently warm this up. Put the flame on it too quickly, what you may find is that the borax, the flux that I'm using here, will bubble up too much and displace the actual solder. You can see how much it's moving now, but as the heat carries on, that'll just settle back down. Warm up either side of the shank. You can see the cool heat is just starting to dry out slightly on either side. That is because the silver conducts the heat so quickly. I'm just warming up on either side of the ring shank here. Then once you've warmed up either side, you can direct the flame then right towards where the joint is. Look at the colour of the flux, and that solder is going to move. Try not to direct the torch directly onto that solder. You will burn the solder and it'll just lose its flowing properties. Just starts to melt. You're completely safe knowing the stone is encompassed within that cool heat. It does take a little bit longer because obviously it's silver and the cool heat is taking some of the heat away. The solder balls up and starts to melt. I would always advise you to bring the torch on the inside as well, just to make sure that solder has come through. Remember, solder does like the heat. It will flow to the hottest side, so that the solder will flow from the outside of the shank to the inside. Just starting to melt up on the top there. Perfect. Okay, let that cool down a fraction. We can't go putting that into the acid. There's one thing you must never do is try and quench that into the acid. The sudden shock is likely to damage the stone. We've got the cool heat that started to dry out. What you can do is just flick that off, and you should be able to safely take this out. And there is our ring. Looks a bit dirty and disgusting, but that will wash off. What we can do now, if it hasn't dried out too much, you can simply scoop off your cool heat and simply put it back into the container. Then it's just a simple matter of cleaning up your solder joint. Clean up the inside first. Get rid of any little bits of flux that may be on the inside. Once you've cleaned it off the inside, put it up onto your mandrel to see what size it is. That is actually spot on now, a size J. Make sure it's nicely rounded. Tap it with a mallet. Once it's all nice and round, take it off and then just finish off the outsides of the shank just to remove that little bit of excess solder you may have. On either side like that. It's not going to take hardly any cleaning up at all. Then go over the outside of the shank. Remember to file in the same way as the shank. If the shank is completely flat, we'll then file it flat. If the shank is slightly rounded, we'll then try and match the contour and blend one half of the shank into the other. Once you've gone over with the file, you can get a buff stick to go on the outsides to clean up the outside, all your file marks off. You can go on the inside. I'm just going to save a bit of time. I've got a sanding drum here in my flex shaft. If you want to, you could use a rounded buff stick as well to clean up the inside. On the outside as well. Use the buff stick, get rid of all the file marks, make sure it's all looking as new. And once you're happy with that, I will take a white nylon bristle brush in some Tripoli on the inside, clean up the inside of the ring with that. You can even do the outsides of the ring as well. This brush then will even do the shank as well. Conforms to the shape of the shank. I'm going to pop that into some water. Then I'm going to pop the rouge mop on it. Rouge mop, that's a simple, soft, woolly mop as we've got like that there. Use that with a little bit of rouge polish to bring the ring up to a gorgeous shine. Once you've used the soft woolen mop, pop it through the ultrasonic or put it through a nice warm soapy water and you can bring the ring back up exactly as it was before you worked on it. So the shank is the same thickness all the way around, it's the same width all the way around, completely invisible join. That's a very quick film showing you how we can resize a silver ring smaller even when it contains gemstones using some Thermo Gel. My name is Andrew Berry for At The Bench's YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, please subscribe if you haven't done already. And don't forget, if you like the film, give me a thumbs up. And don't forget, share this film with your jewelry making friends. Love you too. So thank you for watching. See you on the next film. Bye-bye.